So, good morning, students. After a long
Good
time,
morning, sir.
after a
Good morning,
long
sir.
time we are meeting. I'm sorry for this, delay. Now, if you remember the last class, we were dealing with Nehru's understanding of nationalism, and I have told you the base of Nehru's understanding of nationalism is historical. The goal or aim of Nehru's nationalism is political, and the nature of Nehru's nationalism is philosophical. And it's not so easy to understand Nehru's understanding of nationalism, because Nehru is a statesman, he's a politician, he's a philosopher, and he's a modernist. Right. Now, if you remember the last class, I left by saying that if Indianness that was present in our flesh, blood, and bones, then why it was necessary to discover India at all? I told you, understanding nationalism means discovering history, and discovering history means discovering yourself, right? Discovering yourself, it is the journey of knowing self or knowing yourself. So, in the last class, if you Nehru sought to specify, or Nehru sought a specific quality of being, which was nonetheless a subject of common humanity. And what is that specific quality? In different, uh, in different places in his work, he has used multiple terms to understand that specific quality. In some places, he has used special heritage. In some places, he has used tolerance, so on and so forth. So here he has used special heritage. There is a special heritage for those of us of India, something that is in our flesh, blood, bone, that has gone to make us what we are and what we are likely to be. So Nehru understand the diversity, and this diversity for Nehru is the appearance. And in reality, there is a common thing, a special or specific quality, and that binds us together, right? And let me tell you, Nehru's understanding of nationalism, it contributes to internationalism as well, because Nehru's nationalism, though the goal was to build up a nation state, yet it was not against the humanity. So that is, hence it is philosophic, hence it is philosophic in nature, right? So what he is saying, that specific quality, what he understand special heritage in this context, that is there in our flesh, blood, and bone, and that has made us, that is making us, and that will make us, that has defined us who we are, and that will define us what we are likely to be. Now the question arises, if Indianness was present in our flesh, blood, bone, then why it is necessary to discover India at all? On that point, we ended our last class. What did he mean to discover that which was already within us and shaping us? Now, here Nehru provided three reasons why it was necessary to discover India. The first reason, I hope you are with paper and pen and you can make your own class note in your own language by understanding what I'm saying. The first reason is that is the past, though India was present in all her people, yet this was on reflexive and on self-consciousness presence, right? We do not know, we though that specific quality that binds us together, that binds us together, that specific qualities that is there within all of us, but still then we are not reflective on that quality. We don't have any reflectivity on that quality. Even we are not conscious of that quality. Though special heritage has a strong hold over Indians because of the cultural continuity stretching over thousands of years, yet this is insufficient for the purpose of creating a political unity of founding an Indian nation state. So, no doubt, special heritage is there. There is continuity of culture, and that culture is very much unique to Indian subcontinent. Yet this is insufficient for the purpose of creating a nation state or creating political unity that is leading towards an Indian nation state. Now, to put it, I'll take your class later. I'm taking a class actually. So, to put it in different language, to put it in a different language, to be Indian was necessary but not sufficient condition. So to create a nation state, only becoming an Indian is not sufficient, though it is necessary. It is necessary but not sufficient. We need to understand that. To be Indian is the first requisite of making an Indian nation state. But in addition to that, you need to understand that specific quality. You need to understand that philosophy, that metaphysical reality that binds us together. You need to understand the common humanity in order to develop a nation state. So to put it in a different language, to be Indian was necessary but not sufficient condition to becoming or to being an Indian nationalist. To be an Indian nationalist, you have to become Indian. At the same time, you must have self-consciousness that why you are an Indian. You should always be self-critical. By thinking that you are a nationalist, you cannot be a nationalist. You can be a nationalist only when you contribute towards your nation. And that contribution is possible only when you realize the unity in diversity. Here I am using unity in diversity in a different sense. When you realize that this diversity is the appearance and there is an inherent unity among all of us. We have common special heritage, We have a common philosophy, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We have the theory of tolerance. In fact, it's not the theory, we have the practice of tolerance in our civilization. Now, the experience of being Indian was not sufficient because it did not necessarily generate the desire to express this commonality politically. So to be Indian, it is necessary. But why it is not sufficient? Because it has not generated the desire to express the commonality politically. So politically speaking, we are not realizing that unity. Rather than we are giving importance to our diversity. And that diversity is appearance, not the reality. So politically, we are much connected with diversity than realizing that unity. So to be Indian is not enough. Now, India was not their piece of land. And what is that realization Nehru is talking about? What is that you need to realize in order to become a nationalist? Now, here Nehru is making this point that India is not a piece of land or it is a village or district, but the people of India. So, India means for Nehru the people of India. So, a nationalist must represent the people of India. If the nationalist is representing the piece of land, then he is not nationalist. If the nationalist is representing the village, not the people of India, then he is not nationalist. So to be a nationalist means you need to give importance or you need to have an understanding of people of India. A people whose unity could only be expressed in the form of state. Right? So here Nehru is giving importance to individual, right? To the people of India. And people of India are connected with one another by that specific quality, common heritage, culture, whatever you say. And all these things are there in our Hindu philosophy, Hindu tradition, or Indian political tradition, classical Indian political tradition, whatever you may call. So it's not that I am a Odia, you are a Tamil, somebody is a Malayali, somebody is a Bihari. It's not like that. We are the people of India. We have our distinctive characteristics. Now, the state must give respect to our unique characteristics, not as a part of, or not as a Odia, not as a Bihari, but as an Indian citizen or as the people of India. At the same time, the state should also create a situation where the people of India will realize their commonality. They will be able to connect themselves with one another. And then only a nation state can be possible. A nation state where particularities will be given importance, where universality will be achieved through the realization of that specific quality, realization of that culture, realization of that philosophy, which is there in our ancient past. If you remember, the six schools of thought, six schools of Hindu philosophy, then you understand the seeds of modernism was there in one school of thought. I am throwing this question to all of you. Can you name that one school of thought where the seeds of modernity is there? Can anybody tell me? Niyati?
Sorry, sir.
What are the six schools of thought in Hindu philosophy? Tell me.
A Sankhya school of thought, and then
Yeah,
one of sorry.
you check it. In which school of thought science and scientific temper was given importance? Can anybody except Avipsa? Can anybody tell me? You check and tell me.
Sir, Nehru School of Thought.
I knew it, but I was waiting. So who said it?
Sir,
What's your name?
Sibasis. Sibasis.
Oh, thank you, Shivasis. It is the Nyaya school of thought where the seeds of modernity was there. And maybe Nehru was hinting to that the seeds of modern state that is there in the ancient past, especially in the Nyaya school of thought. So you got the first reason that why it was necessary to discover India. It was necessary to discover India in order to be self-reflective and self-conscious. So no doubt it was there in our flesh, blood and bone, but we were not realizing it. We were not realizing the undercurrent unity among the people of India. Rather, we were politically divided on the basis of different cleavages. So that's why the rediscovery of India is the must. So that is the first justification of Nehru of rediscovering India. I hope that you got it. And the second reason why there is a need to rediscover India, the second reason begins like this. Now, around 1000 AD, India began to lose her creative genius and vitality, evidenced in the decline all down the line, whether it is intellectual, philosophical, political. The causes and symptoms of this decline were an increasing rigidity and inflexibility in India's social structure and a corresponding exclusivity and isolation from new ideas. So why there is the requirement of rediscovery? No doubt good things are there in us, No doubt, Hindu philosophy is with us, but that Hindu philosophy that got marginalized because of the Brahminical tradition. That is what Nehru is hinting, right? The creative genius, vitality, that was the part of Hindu philosophy, but it is due to this Brahminical tradition, there is a declining of intellectual, philosophical, and political what? Political aspect of India. If you see the Hindu philosophy, then you will find it is rich intellectually, it is rich philosophically, it is rich politically. But it is due to this Brahminical tradition, there is a declination of that. And instead of good, what has increased? Rigidity has increased. Inflexibility of Indian social structure, that has increased. Exclusivity has been increased. Isolation from new ideas has been increased. So doors that has been closed. But Hindu philosophy wants the door of Indian social system or political system to be open. Now this process, not arrested by the Mughal invasion and undermined and simultaneously reinforced by the British ruler. Now Mughal did not revive or did not take any step to dismantle this Brahminical domination, rather than they did not understand it as a problem. Mughals, they understand Hindu philosophy as Brahminical tradition. And after the Mughal, Britisher came, and Britishers, they have done more damage to Indian social fabric by exploiting the Brahminical tradition to harm the Hindu philosophy. They thought that this Brahminical tradition is the Hindu philosophy, right? And they started undermining the Brahminical tradition, and thereby they started undermining the Hindu philosophy. By undermining the Brahminical tradition, Britishers, they have reinforced the Brahminical tradition. I hope that you got this sense. Let me read this sentence. It's a very key sentence. This process, not arrested by the Mughal invasion, I mean this process of degradation, the process of degradation that was not arrested by the Mughals, and that was undermined and simultaneously reinforced by the British ruler. Now British ruler, they exploited this degradation process, and they try to take the advantage out of that. Right? Now all the dust and dirty of ages have covered her, I mean India, up and hidden her inner beauty and significance. The beauty of Indian tradition is the Hindu philosophy. Now that beauty that was covered by the dust and dirty, of Brahminical tradition. Now, Brahminical tradition is seen as a dust and dirty things by Nehru, which was covering the beautiful things that is the Hindu philosophy or Indian tradition. Now, to journey in the past was not indiscriminate exercise. One had to be carefully choose one way. So when you are having a journey into the past, you should not be value free for Nehru, because by discovering history you are also creating a history that is beneficial for India, that is beneficial for generation one after another. So what he is saying, that it is not a indiscriminate exercise. That means to journey the history, discovering history is a journey of journey to discriminate, or it is a journey of discriminate exercise. You need to discriminate, you need to choose the best way of reading history, because reading history is making your consciousness, and your consciousness is making the nation state strong or weak. So there are different ways of reading history, but Nehru opted a indiscriminate, and Nehru opted the best way of dealing with history, best way, where Indian will understand the modern values, which is they are in Indian philosophy or Hindu philosophy, that is the Nyaya school of thought, where people will understand after reading the history, when people will understand their diversity is the appearance. But here Nehru is not rejecting appearance. Nehru is saying that particularity must be given importance. But at the same time, people should not be limited to the particularities. People should also understand the inherent unity among them. So that's why the journey in the past for Nehru, it was not a indiscriminate exercise, rather than it was a discriminate exercise, because Nehru is opting that one way which is going to give benefits, or which is beneficial for Indian minds, Indian people. So that's why it's not a it's not a unbiased journey, rather it is a biased journey. It was only by abandoning the useless rather than indiscriminately clinging to the tradition that Indian culture and identity would survive and prosper. So what he is saying, that we should not read history as it is. We should not read history as it is. Rather, we should abandon the negative things of our history. We should glorify the positive aspect of the history. And why we should abandon the useless history? Because the useless history or negative history, that can pollute our mind, that can create confusion, that can create complexity in our mind, where we cannot contribute to the Indian nation state. So that's why Nehru was in support of abandoning the useless. Nehru was supporting the discriminate practice of dealing with history, because why he was abandoning the useless thing? Because the non abandonment of those useless and negative aspect of Indian history may create problem for Indian culture and Indian identity to survive and prosper. So the goal, remember I told that Nehru's nationalism was political, to create a very strong nation state. But that nation state is also philosophically oriented, justified, because people of India, they are realizing the undercurrent unity which is there in them. So the goal is how to survive, how to prosper the Indian culture and Indian identity. So that's why Nehru was abandoning the useless and negative aspect of the history. So it is not reading history as it is creatively reading history and creative interpretation of history. So that is the second reason why Indian discovery of India is required. So the second reason is all about this discovery. Nehru is justifying on this basis that the beauty has been covered by ugly. And what is the beauty? Beauty is the Hindu philosophy. What is the ugly? Ugly is the Brahminical tradition, and this Brahminical tradition got support from Mughals and Britishers. Hence, the rediscovery of India is the must, and this rediscovery will revive the creative geniusness and vitality of Hindu philosophy. Now, Hindu philosophy and modern nation state system for Nehru, they were not antithetical. Rather than for Nehru, modern Indian nation state has its seed in the Hindu philosophy, not in the Brahminical tradition. So I hope that you got. That is the second reason why rediscovery or why a journey into the past is necessary. And let's come to the third reason. Now, rediscovering India is also necessary because it had become alienated from its own history and culture as the consequence of its privileged urban lifestyle and its Western education. It's very crucial. Now, when Nehru had a journey to the length and breadth of India as a part of his election campaigning, he found India in different forms. And this rediscovery is because India has been alienated from itself. Now, India is not living its own life, right? So, rediscovering India is necessary because it has become alienated from its own history and culture. Rather, now Indians or India has been influenced by the privileged urban lifestyle and Western education. So, what Nehru is understanding that India is not privileged urban life or Western education. India is something different. So, no doubt, India in place, but this place has been clothed by the foreign garments. This is very important. And what Nehru understand by foreign garments, now this is the urban lifestyle and Western education. So we are Indian from within, and we are foreigner from outside. So no doubt Indian is there in our place, but we are not identifying us with that place. Rather, we identify ourselves to these foreign garments. It was necessary for elite to discover India by rediscovering the Indianness in themselves. So rediscovery of India means understanding the Indianness that is there within themselves, the elites. And who are the elites? Now, elites are having the urban lifestyle. Elites are having the Western education. So, rediscovery of India means rediscovering by the elite of Indianness in themselves. And for this reason, it was necessary to discover India. So, these are the three reasons that why the rediscovery or discovering India was necessary for Nehru. So Nehru is saying that Indianness is within us, but we are not realizing it. There are different regions, there are different historical contexts where we are alienated from ourselves. And this alienation cannot create a modern nation state where people will identify themselves with that nation state by forgetting their particularities. And this rediscovery of India is nothing but an attempt to revive the Hindu philosophy or Indian philosophy. And the root of modern nation state, it is there in the Hindu philosophy. That is the humble submission of Nehru before us. That's why rediscovery is necessary and is the need of the hour. So in the past case, the discovery of India was a question of constructing India and Indianness in a particular way. The transformation of a quality of felt experience based on shared essence into a vision of a nation which would express and safeguard that common essence. If you look the past reason of discovery, you will find that in the past reason, Nehru is trying to construct India and Indianness and in a particular way, in a very particular way. People must understand that unity, and that unity will be understood by people only when their consciousness will go to a upper level where they can understand the metaphysical reality, where they can understand their commonness, commonality, where they can understand the specific quality that binds them together. And until and unless people will not raise their level where they can understand this metaphysical reality, that modern nation state or modern Indian nation state is not possible. And that raising of that level is possible only when Hindu philosophy will be revived. People must be connected with their root Hindu philosophy. So in the first justification, one can get a sense like this. And in the second and third justification, the discovery of India was an act of recovery or recovering that which had come to be obscured and submerged. So in the first and second, in the second and third justification, rediscovery of India means it is the recovery, it is the recovery of it is the recovery of that again Hindu philosophy. It is the recovery of Hindu philosophy by abandoning the Brahminical tradition. And who were the agents of that Brahminical tradition? Now it is that elite who are having the urban lifestyle and who are educated or who are Western educated. They were the agents of Brahminical tradition. Now elites must realize that there is an Indianness within themselves. Right? So whether it is first, second or third justification, you will find Nehru is trying to connect, this is something important, Nehru is trying to connect the modern nation state with the Hindu philosophy, that is the Nyaya school of thought. Now the elite had to discover India and its own Indianness, for only then could it be in a position to lead a nationalist struggle. So what is important? What is important for India to become a nation state or to get independence from the Britisher, or to be or to decolonize itself? Now it is only when the elite understand their India or Indianness that is there within themselves. The peasantry given Indianness had to be brought to self-conscious through a nationalist pedagogy, for only then would it express itself in a desire to found a nation state. So here what is important? Nehru is saying now the elite must realize India and Indianness within themselves, and those who are non-elite, peasantry section, for them Nehru is suggesting to develop a nationalist pedagogy, and that nationalist pedagogy will help the non-elite to get their self-consciousness, and then only a nation state can be possible. A pure, authentic nation state can be possible, where people will connect with one another, people will understand the metaphysical relationship among themselves. The India that was to be discovered was already known. Here the element of discovery lay in how it was known. Right? How it was known. How to make it understand. See, only by knowing that you are intelligent, you cannot become intelligent. Only by knowing that you are intelligent, you cannot be intelligent. You can be intelligent only when you know how you are intelligent. You must know the reason why you are intelligent. That is the process of becoming intelligent. This is just like that. The India that was to be discovered was already known. So Nehru knew that what India I am trying to rediscover. But the question is that how to discover it. Now Nehru is clear that I need to discover a India which is modern, right? Which is modern. I'll come to it later. But then how to relate the modern nation state with India's past? That was the major challenge before the Nehru. Now Nehru's journey into the Indian past, not primarily in order to know India, but rather to establish that particular way of knowing India was the best way. So Nehru knew that what is that he is going to discover. but how to convince others that what Nehru has discovered, that is, they are within themselves. How to make it convince to the others? That was the major problem. Now, Nehru frequently referred to the particularity while defining nation state. In his words, quote and unquote, it is fascinating to find how Bengalis, Marathis, Gujaratis, Tamils, Odias, Assamese, Kannadis, Malayalis, Sinhs, Punjabis, Pathans, and Kashmiris, Rajputs, and great central bloc comprising the Hindustani speaking people have retained their peculiar characteristic for hundreds of years. So, what it means? Your particularity has two sense for Nehru. The first sense is that to make the Indian nation state, the government or the state should not marginalize these particularities of different segments. These particularities must be given importance. But at the same time, all must be connected with one, all must be connected with one particular, and that one particular is, for Nehru, it is the Indian culture and civilization. And this Indian culture and civilization, that to understand it, you need to develop spiritualism. Through materialism, you cannot understand it. Now, Nehru is trying to concretize that particular that binds together, but every time, Nehru fails to, expose it concretely. Rather, Nehru is hinting to that at, in every time. Now, Nehru's encounter with the peasants of, Pratapgarh, Nehru visited Pratapgarh, marked his discovery of an Indian completely different from the well-to-do urban, milieux. Here was the here was an India that was naked, starving, crushed, utterly miserable, an India of degradation and overwhelming poverty. With this discovery, Nehru understood the overwhelming sense of responsibility. So, to be a nationalist, you must have this sense of responsibility for all, not for your own group. I have mentioned it earlier that Nehru has had journey over the length and breadth of India. There he found the different kinds of diversity. There he got the sense that how India is different from, or Indians are different from one another. They are divided by different cleavages. After 1920, Nehru started seeing India and her people, and he discovered the past in the present. So this is important. Discovering past in present. Now Nehru, being a Pandit, he understands Indian philosophy. And Nehru is also the Western educated, fellow. But the challenge before Nehru was that how to convince the Indians about their own past. So that's why Nehru tried to contextualize past in the present of Indians, right? The material what I have sent you, you read from the page number 43 to 45. There you get a sense how how Nehru discovered past in present India. How Nehru tried to develop a metaphysical sense in both elite and non-elite, right? So let me take 5 minutes break and I will come back after 5 minutes, so be with me. So I am back. So are you all there? Am I
Yes,
audible
sir.
to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the last sentence where I ended, that Nehru tried to discover the past in present, right? Discovering past in the present, it means, let me give you an example. You see, in each family, you will, not in all family, but most of the family you can find the family disputes. Brothers are becoming the enemy of brothers, right? And you will feel that as if these two individuals are too different. But a moment comes when they realize that they are the branches of one tree, right? And they realize their commonness or commonality by remembering their fathers or forefathers, that we are part of them. So there is a natural tendency of mankind that we connect each other, and our connection lies with our past. So Nehru understood it very well. Nehru understood that in present condition, peoples are divided in different cleavages. Now, how people should be, connected with one another. Now, only when people can be connected by, making them conscious about their history. But again, Nehru knew that history is not the bed of roses. There are many ups and downs in the history. And here Nehru is trying to, correct the history trying to creatively making the history in such a way that it will generate the feeling of oneness among us. So past has this specific role for Nehru for creation of that oneness. But does it mean that Nehru was happy with Indian past or any kind of past? No, Nehru was not happy. This did not mean that there was any equivalence between the past and present. So, discovering past in present doesn't mean that past and present are equivalently connected. No, Nehru knew it, no doubt. For Nehru, past had a certain role to play for the construction of present, but it had to adapt itself to the requirement of the present age. That means past should be interpreted in such a way that can contribute to the present ages. Past should not damage the present. Rather, past should contribute positively to the present. Nehru valued past to locate Indianness, locate commonness, commonality or commonness. But he had little nostalgia for tradition and practices handed down from the past. But Nehru was also critical of past. Past has a very limited role for Nehru. That is, that it is necessary to develop the Indianness or commonness for Indians presently existing. That doesn't mean that Nehru was having nostalgia for tradition and practices. He was not regarding past as the golden age. So Nehru is using past, but Nehru was not the lover of past. Right? For Nehru, past was not the golden age. To quote him, I neither think, quote unquote, I neither think that the so-called Ram Rajya was very good in the past, nor do I want it back. So he's saying that in Ram Rajya also, you can find many vices. And I don't want that Ram Rajya to back because I don't want that vices. So Nehru was against the over glorification of the tradition. Rather, Nehru was in support of creatively using tradition towards the creation of modern Indian nation state. In fact, Nehru wished to transfer or abolish much that has been inherited from the past. To quote him, many of our traditions, quote and unquote, many of our traditions, customs, habits are relics of past, suitable in those far off days, but utterly out of joint with modern condition. So what is saying that tradition, custom, and habits that was relevant for that society for that time, that may be, but today in a modern condition that is not relevant. The vantage point from which past and present were perceived and evaluated was itself already thoroughly modern. So, Nehru is giving importance to that past which is strengthening the modern, right? The vantage point from which past and present were perceived and evaluated was itself already through modern. So Nehru wanted a modern Indian nation state. And he was trying to connect that modern Indian nation state with that aspect of Indian past which talks about that. That is Nyaya school of thought. Right? Nehru's historicism allowed him to point to the past glories of India without committing himself to their continuation in the present. It thus helped him sustain the combination of nationalism and modernism. So what he's saying that glories, past glories of India should be revived, but those glories will not be continued in the present condition. So glories will be remembered without making it continue. Past glories are not relevant to the modern situation, but that past glories is relevant in order to understand our base, the Indianness. Right? It thus helped him to sustain the combination of nationalism and modernism. Now, for Nehru nationalism is modernism, or it is a modern nationalism. And what is a modern nationalism? Modern nationalism is a nationalism where past glories are remembered, but without its continuation into the present era, and where the past contribute towards the modern nation state. That is called modern nationalism. So Nehruvian nationalism was modern nationalism, or for Nehru there was no difference between nationalism and modernism. In fact, nationalism is modernism and modernism is nationalism. Now here let me ask you to once again read the last paragraph or last part of 46 page 2, second para of 48 pages. You read it, you will get a sense what I'm saying. Now let's concentrate on Nehru's answer to this question. What was it in history which constituted distinctively Indian identity? So in history, Nehru is giving importance to the Indian past, Indian history, the glories of India. Now let's concentrate. What is that which constituted or how that glory contributes Indian identity? Now in his discussion on Hinduism, in the discovery of India, Nehru defined Hinduism broadly, and then he denied that Indian identity cannot be a Hindu identity. Rather, he opted for Hindi as a more, as a more adequate description. So what is saying that now Hindu identity, or if you go to the back to the history, then you cannot base the modern nationalism on Hindu identity, because the moment you base the modern nationalism on Hindu identity, then you will face problem from the non-Hindu side. Rather, Nehru gives importance to the Hindi. One may base the modern nationalism on Hindi. Again, you can say that South Indian will have problem, right? You can say that, it is also there in my mind. For Nehru, Indian or Hindi or Hindustani means it is the combination of Hindi and Urdu. Whatever word we may use, we see in the past that some inner urge towards synthesis derived essentially from Indian, philosophic outlook. So Nehru is saying that, in the history, we need to base the modern nationalism on Hindi language rather than on Hindu identity. Right? So Nehru first rejected Hindu identity as a base of modern nationalism. Hindu identity cannot be the base of modern nationalism. Now, along with Hinduism, Nehru rejected a number of other answers available to him to this question: what was it in the history which constituted distinctively Indian identity? This is the question. Now, Nehru rejected Hindu identity, that Hindu identity cannot contribute to Indian identity. Then Nehru also rejects that it was not the elements of great tradition, rather the identity Nehru wished to discover was one which could be embodied and expressed in a modern and industrialized and scientific nation. Then second thing, Nehru rejected that the great traditions cannot be the great traditions. The glorification of past cannot be the base of modern nationalism. The glorification of past cannot contribute towards the Hindu identity. So here glorification of past means the glorification of Brahminic tradition. Here Nehru rejected that. Rather, Nehru was interested in that aspect of history which can or which had the potential to develop, or which has embodied and expressed to establish a modern industrialized and scientific nation. Only that aspect of history for Nehru it was relevant. Now Nehru's rejection of such possibilities stemming from his nationalism and modernism led him to answer whose essentialism was in some respect more deep and thoroughgoing. Right? Let me read it once again. It's not so easy to understand, Nehru. Nehru's rejection of such possibilities stemming from his nationalism and modernism. So Nehru was a modern nationalist, and that's why Nehru understood the Hindu philosophy as well, and that's why Nehru was in a position to reject the Hindu identity and the glorification of Indian tradition as the contributing factors to Indian identity. Nehru rejected it. Rather, what Nehru did, now Nehru, based the modern nationalism or modern nation state on the basis of essentialism, on the basis of essentialism, right, on the basis of existentialism, and that is all about the scientific temper and rationalism, right, scientific temper and rationalism. Now Nehru's rejection of such possibilities stemming from his nationalism and modernism and led him to answer whose essentialism was in some respects more deep and thoroughgoing. So Nehru was giving importance to the essential character of Hindu philosophy. Essential character means based on rude rationalism. Now, the essence of Indian culture was found in some notion of an Indian gist. Sometimes this was characterized as inner urge or some powerful impulses. On other times, the essence of Indian culture was seen as a long cultural continuity. Right. So, for Nehru, the essence of Indian culture that was there in Indian gist. What is gist? G-E-I-S-T. Can anybody tell me what is the meaning of gist? Gist means what? G-E-I-S-T. G-E-I-S-T.
General meaning of the speech or the substance of the speech.
Yes, Durati?
The general meaning of a speech or a text.
Sir, I think it
Okay,
is key points.
Indian gist. Gist means key point or the key aspect. Key or the the key aspect of Hindu philosophy. The essence of Indian culture was found in some notion of an Indian gist. Sometimes this was characterized as an inner urge or some powerful impulse. At other time, the essence of Indian culture was seen as a long cultural continuity. So, for Nehru, Indian culture means the main aspect of Hindu philosophy, that is Indian gist, right? And especially that Nyaya school of thought. Nehru is not naming that Nyaya school of thought. And there you can find there is a inner urge. There is a urge from within, from the Hindu philosophy, right? There is a powerful impulse, to understand yourself, scientifically, to understand yourself scientifically. And Indian culture, the base of Indian culture lies there. The base of Indian culture lies with Indian gist, the key aspect of Indian philosophical tradition or the key aspect of Hindu philosophical tradition, Nyaya school of thought. And that Nyaya school of thought is characterized by inner urge, scrutinizing your thought, introspecting your thought, right? And at the same time, you can find the Indian culture a continuity of argumentation. If you see the Indian philosophy, you will find, especially, let me give you example. Have you seen the debate between Ashtavakra and Pandit Bandi? Right. What is in Janakpuri, where the Sita was born, father of Sita is Janak. In Janakpuri, they were having, debates among Pandits. There you will find the argumentation between Bandi and Ashtavakra. Here you will realize the culture, Indian culture is that. Indian culture is the cultural continuity of argumentation. So the essence of Indian culture is this. We need to identify us with that debate between the Ashtavakra and Raja Bandi. Sorry, Pandit Bandi. Now it would be found in paradoxes. So Past is not golden age for Nehru, but some aspect of the past is very relevant for creating a modern state. That is what Nehru is, repetitively is emphasizing on that point. Now, it would be found in paradoxes elevated to the status of a profound historical and metaphysical truth, unity in diversity, where such alleged unity was not simply held to be a fact of Indian history, but the spirit of animating its unfolding. The tolerance is not only the distinctive features of Indian culture, but also its guiding and defining principles. Right? So, what is the paradox? What is the paradox here Nehru talks about? Now, the paradox is that past is both good and bad. Past is both good and bad. Unity of diversity is both good and bad. How? See, unity of diversity doesn't mean that unity will be imposed over diversity. For Nehru, unity in diversity, it means giving importance to diversity by simultaneously creating a conscious among the Indian minds about that unity, about your attachment with that culture of argumentation, your attachment with that Nyaya school of thought. Right? So for Nehru, past is both good and bad. Unity in diversity is both good and bad. But Nehru understood unity in diversity in a different way. What is being understood today? Right? Tolerance is not only the distinctive features of Indian culture, but also its guiding and defining principle. Today I will share that video. And here tolerance means what? Tolerance means, to be tolerant means, first precondition of having a tolerant behavior is that you must be truthful and honest. You must be truthful and honest. That is the first precondition of becoming tolerant. Suppose I am doing something wrong. Suppose you are doing something wrong and I tolerate it. Is it the toleration? No, it is not the toleration. I must be tolerant of your views, of your rationality. I must give respect to that. Now that culture was part of Indian, tradition or civilization. But there are also vices in the Indian past. But Nehru, as I have told it, Nehru, while going through history, he is also creating history. He is also positively interpreting the history. Now Nehru is trying to give importance to that past. Right. Now Indianness, which Nehru set forth to discover, was a quality that is historically and culturally specific, which could only find its completion and full expression in the form of modern nation state. So what is saying that the Nehruvian modern nation state, it is, or its root is there in the Indian past, the Nyaya school of thought, and it satisfies the needs of present generation, and also it has relevance for the future generation. So this is it. I think you got a sense of what is nationalism for Nehru. Now I have said during my lecture to read the page number 43 to 45 and 46 to 48. You can get a sense. And reading that article, sentences are not simple and meanings are not simple. You need to be very careful while you read that article. So I hope that you got a sense of Nehruvian nationalism. right? Now I understand that I was supposed to be much more coherent on that topic, but I am giving this responsibility to all of you, right? You try to be coherent. You listen and re-listen my talk. You go through that materials what I have, sent to you, and you try to be, coherent. And if you find any difficulty, you can, ask me. You can come to me. We can discuss and we can sort it out. So if I will ask you what are the different characteristics of Nehruvian nationalism, right? Then you should be in a position to tell me, sir, these are the different features of Nehruvian nationalism. Point wise, I did not discuss. I, discussed it the way it was written in that, article. Now you can also, point wise, point wise discuss Nehru, right? So any questions? You have any question, you can ask me, and that's your Nehruvian, nationalism. So any question, any
Yes, sir.
doubts? Yeah, Duratu.
The justification for the rediscovery of India is well understood. But coming to the last part, which you talked about some of the rejections that Nehru made.
Yeah,
Like, for instance, the first one you said Nehru rejected the glorification of the past.
yeah,
Now, if we look at the last justification of Nehru, it says one of the reasons why Nehru rediscovered India is because India became alienated from itself. That
yeah,
is from its history and its culture.
yeah.
Now, how do we connect these 2 points? By the same Nehru is saying, because India is being alienated from itself, there's a need to
Yeah,
rediscover it. Now, at the
yeah.
same time, he's saying he's rejecting the glorification of the
See,
past.
okay, I got it. See, Nehru understand past means both good and bad. I mean, there are positive aspect of the past and there are negative aspect of the past. When Indians, the present, Indian people, they are alienated from the past, they are not only alienated from the bad past, they are also alienated from the good past. And that alienation is creating problem towards the realization of Indianness, toward the realization of that unity in a metaphysical sense. Right? But Nehru is against the over glorification. Here it means that along with the good past, the bad past, good past must be glorified. Good past must be glorified. But the bad past should not. So what in somewhere I told you that he was trying to, abandon the bad past. Here bad past means the Brahminical tradition. Good past means Hindu philosophy. Hindu philosophy and Brahminical tradition, from the pragmatic sense, it was so combined with one another, it's very difficult to separate them. So the glorification of past may also, overemphasizing on the Brahminical tradition. And rejecting the past, it may also mean that rejecting the Hindu philosophy. So what Nehru wants, that Indians must connect themselves with the good past Hindu philosophy, and they must abandon the bad past, that is the Brahminical tradition. But Nehru, maybe he is not clearly saying. I understood it in a different, in this sense. So I think for me, there is no problem that Nehru is against the over glorification of tradition, and this point is not at all incompatible with the third justification of Nehru, regarding this, alienation. It's not this third, actually, it is the second. Durati, it is the third justification or second?
The third one.
Second. Third one.
Yeah. Or maybe I'm the one who's mistaken it. Because the first one is you talked about self-reflection and self-consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second one, you talked about discovering the beauty of India, that is Hindu philosophy, and the other side of that was Brahmanic
I
traditions.
think alienation is there in the second point.
Okay.
Alienation is there in the second point. I mean, I told you how Mughal invasion did not arrest these negative aspects of the Hindu tradition, and how British are manipulated it. So that's why there is a kind of alienation, right? So that's why rediscovery is the most. And in the third point, I told that the rediscovery is necessary because India is not uh, based on the privileged urban lifestyle or Western education. Rather than, India is something else. There are diversities. And what Nehru is saying, that elite, those who are urban lifestyle or those who are having urban lifestyle and Western education, they need to rediscover Indianness within themselves. They should not give importance to the outside foreign garments. Rather than, they should understand their own place, that is Indian. And for the non-elite, Nehru is trying to develop a nationalist pedagogy that will help them towards their self-consciousness. So I think I don't find any contradiction between this point, that alienation with the Nehru's opposition to the over glorification. Nehru is hinting to the Nyaya school of thought very, very categorically. He is saying that modern nation state, the root of it is there in the Nyaya school of thought, which believes in the rationalism, scientific temper. I hope, Durati, you got this sense. I don't find any contradiction.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So thank you. I'm going back to the class. I'm stopping the recording. Rest we will discuss in the class right now.